If someone walks in for an interview completely naked and I hire him, then I'm definitely getting fired. What would you say? Of course, he had better dress in his finest clothes. Chris proved he was one of a kind in his own way. Luckily, he aced the interview and became an intern, only to find out that this internship is unpaid. He's worried about surviving 6 months without cash, while everyone else is thinking, how hard can this internship be? If he doesn't grab this opportunity, someone else might swipe it. Plus, if he gives up now, the other shareholders will hold a laugh at Chris' party. At the end of the internship, they hire 1 out of 20, and if Chris misses that 1 in 20 chance, his 6 months of training might as well be a fairy tale. It's just not practical. These 6 months feel like a high-stakes poker game, with his only assets being those 6 scanning chairs. During his spare time, he tries to sell everything, hoping to offload all the equipment, then just barely survive. He rushes home to erase that Chris, you're a disaster phrase, marking the start of a new life. He calls the secretary, all excited to accept the internship offer, and promises to show up in a few days. When the time comes to meet his wife, Chris stares out the window waiting for his son. At 9 p.m., he finally sees his wife walking in with their son. He rushes downstairs to greet them, itching for a hug, but no eye contact with the sleepyhead. Finally, he breathes a sigh of relief seeing his wife's sister's boyfriend runs a restaurant in New York and is offering her a waitress job. Tomorrow, she's taking a train to leave their shattered home. She's leaving the son with Chris, who's wondering how he's going to keep them both alive. When she mentions joining the company, Chris' mind just goes into a tailspin. Subtitle: first, she mocks him by saying, going from a salesman down to an intern. That's absolutely hilarious. Though she's reluctant in her heart, she has to make a tough choice for her own happiness in the face of life. At that moment, Chris truly feels completely defeated. He feels unworthy of even trying to keep her. Things have spiraled too far. She didn't realize that the child couldn't tie her down, so she's calling friends to help her. She moves into a cheaper motel with their son, while the little one ends up at a Chinese-run daycare. Among all those kids, her child is the only black kid. Chris takes his father duties seriously when he sees the daycare changing happy to new normal. She gently corrects them, not wanting her child to misunderstand. Chris at 28 realizes he has to make sure his kid knows who his father is. One day on the way to school, little Chris mentioned a character from a movie, reminding her of what she saw on the daycare screen. Thus, Chris finds out for the first time that daycare plays TV shows for kids every day. Subtitles: she approaches the director of the kindergarten to inquire about the situation, only to find out that they show TV programs to help the children learn about American history. Can you put the dog in the room? Absolutely. Chris is left speechless by the director's words. He feels powerless to give his son a better education. Chris starts his official training, preparing a list of employee contacts for the Fortune 500 companies. They need to pick 60 companies to call on randomly selected potential clients. The more calls they make, the better their chances of getting hired. Plus, there will be a written test. Last year, someone scored 96 points and still failed to get hired. So, to ensure success, he must ace the test. During a 10-minute lunch break, he plans to grab a sandwich, but runs into the shareholder who interviewed him and thinks of how to network, only to spot a homeless man carrying the scanner he lost at the subway. He makes an excuse to the shareholder and quickly bolts after him. But just as he's about to catch up, he forgets to look and crashes right into a passing car, losing one of his shoes. The driver offers him a ride to the hospital, but he chooses to rush back to work. Back at work, a colleague waits for him, intent on making his day miserable while picking up his kid. When his son asks, "Where are your shoes?" he smiles and replies, "They were launched by car." While feeling a deep ache inside, he's always the first to arrive for training, but because of his skin color, his boss always finds excuses to give him a hard time. He even has to run coffee errands for his boss. Even when someone offers help, it's always just directed at Chris. He feels undervalued, receiving no deserved recognition at all. He has to finish work ahead of time, then rush to catch the 4 p.m. bus, crossing town to get home on the #22 bus. By the time he gets back to the motel, it's already late. The owner keeps pestering him for rent, but he always says, "Life is never short on hope. Each phone number on that list is a spark in him." He squeezes in time to work. Others clock out at 7 p.m., but he has to cram 9 hours of work into 6. And he never drinks water, just to save time in the bathroom. But after 2 months, he hasn't finished a single contact on his list. He realizes that working this efficiently won't give him that 5% chance to win. So he decides to change tactics and call the bosses of the employees directly, only to find out they want him there in 20 minutes. Just as he cancels an appointment, this sudden invitation throws Chris into a frenzy. He drops everything to rush for those precious few minutes. But as soon as he steps down, his boss gives him another errand: find a parking spot for his prize car. He's in such a hurry, he parks right on the roadside and hasn't got a moment to explain where he's off to. By the way, don't forget to give a like and subscribe, as there's more exciting content ahead.